What is universal altruism? Martin Luther King Jr., in his sermon on being a good neighbor, expounded the biblical story of the Good Samaritan and how it applies today. Let's take a look. In the story, a man is overcome by thieves. He is beaten, robbed, and left half dead. The first two people who come across the victim pass by and do nothing. These first two represented those with whom the audience of Jesus' story could have identified with. But they do nothing. The third person who arrives at the tragic scene is a Samaritan, someone who would have been considered an enemy to the audience. It is the Samaritan who helps the victim. At the end of telling the story, Jesus asks the listeners, "Which of these three do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers?" The obvious answer? The one who acted for the good of the other. Today there are Good Samaritan laws that provide legal protection for those who give reasonable assistance to people in peril. Do you consider yourself a good neighbor? According to MLK, a distinguishing characteristic of the Good Samaritan was his capacity for universal altruism. He was not selective in who he helped. He was not biased with his kindness. Such a capacity is life-giving. Do you have the capacity to see and treat all people equally? Capacity means having space. When you invite people into your home for a meal, you're welcoming them into your living space. Universal altruism is more than mere physical space. It is relational space. It is, do we have space in our lives for all people? Doing good to every person will mean creating space in your heart. It will require making room for differences. Even though altruism is a value for many, it is not always universal. I can think of times in my own life when I followed my fear and silenced that still small voice in my heart that said, "You should help this person." My prejudice countered what my conscience knew what was right and good. Unfortunately, my actions reflected a false belief about people of difference and limited my altruism. MLK believed that all people must be seen as people first, to be seen as those who share a common humanity. Every person has worth and deserves respect and dignity. When we make distinctions in how we see and treat others based on differences, we betray that common life and likeness that we have. MLK clarifies the Samaritan was good because he made concern for others the first law of his life. Let me say that again. He made concern for others the first law of his life. Being a good neighbor means showing concern for all people, those who we come across on the pathway and highways of life. The golden rule applies to everyone. We acknowledge and affirm that it is good to help others in need, regardless of who they are. You can be a good neighbor as a leader. Who are the people along the road of life that need your attention? If you found value in what you just watched, please hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.